We want big Canadian citizens with a smaller and more efficient government where the state is servant and not master, where our priorities are clear: to axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, and stop the crime. And as soon as the NDP takes away its support from this Prime Minister, we will have a carbon tax election where the people will be able to make that decision for themselves based on the common sense of the common people united for our common home. Your home, my home, our home. Let's bring it home.
Your home, my home, your home, our home. That, of course, is Pierre Poilievre. Reaction to the budget today. Interesting point about the NDP. We'll ask that about or from Tom MULCAIR in a sec. Our feature is brought to you by Guaranteed Industries, reminding you if you're looking to maintain the system you have or get it ready for the nice warm weather that's on the way, give Guaranteed a call. They have been serving Montrealers for more than 75 years. 514-342-3400 or online, guaranteedindustries.com. So, Tom, you heard Pierre Poilievre there reference the NDP, suggesting if, they pull their support from the Liberals, who knows, we could be heading into an election. And earlier, we actually heard a reporter ask a question of Yves-François Blanchet because it seems Jagmeet Singh has said, I can't support this budget yet. I need to talk to the Prime Minister. So what sort of game playing is this, or is this par for the course?
It's absolute 100% game playing, because it is absolutely 100% certain that Jagmeet Singh will vote for this budget, because he has no desire to go to an election right now. He's already lost 6 members of his 20-some-odd member caucus because they're just bailing. They're looking at the numbers. They're looking at the juggernaut of the Conservatives coming for their ridings, and they don't have any confidence that they can win. The other thing is, too, this budget is full of things that is the exact opposite of what the NDP has as an official policy on Quebec. So I'm anxious to see what my old friend and colleague Alexandre Boulay is going to do. He should not be able to vote for this budget because it breaks all of the rules, what's set down in the Sherbrooke Declaration, the founding principles of the NDP in its relationship with Quebec. With regard to Singh, he stood in front of the cameras and he didn't say he wasn't going to vote for it. He just said he won't announce today. So it was quite clear that he was just trying to buy himself a bit of wiggle room.
So you've seen, I guess, the highlights in this budget, if you will. Is this a pre-election budget?
I've been at this for a whole long time. I've been doing budgets for decades, provincially, federally, and this is the biggest stink bomb of a budget I have ever seen in my life. It is full of trickery. So there are things that were promised in prior budgets that no longer appear here, just so that they can pretend that the spending is kept at the deficit is kept at $40 billion, which of course it's not. Then there's this massive capital gains tax hike that's supposed to be on the super rich. But let me tell you who the super rich are in Justin Trudeau's evaluation. So that if you have a principal residence, your house, that capital gains taxes don't apply. But look at a place that a lot of our listeners know, like Notre Dame Street in Chamonix, in Laval, that goes essentially between the Autoroute 13 and Autoroute 15. Most of those triplexes have belonged in successive waves to first-generation Canadians who worked hard, who played by the rules, and who didn't have a nice government pension. Their pension was buying the triplex, renting it out, fixing it up, watching its value increase, and now all of a sudden they're being told that they're super rich, because if you have a capital gain above $250K, you're going to be hit with a whopping 66 2/3 taxable as opposed to the current 50%. So right now you have to bring 50% of that capital gain into income. It goes from 50% up to 66 2/3%. By the way, this has been tried before, Aaron. I'm sure you're aware of that. And it was such a massive mountain of chaos trying to figure out what was the date of crystallization under the new rules and the old rules. And, there maybe a few accountants found it fun and a few lawyers. But in the real world, the only people who enjoyed it were the civil service unions, because you had to hire more armies of civil servants to try to wade through this stuff. It's a mess. It's an incredibly bad decision. It's a definition that is supposed to get Canadians to favor what Trudeau is doing, because he's trying to say, you know what, I'm going after rich folks and other parties won't do that. But he's going after, in many cases, ordinary folks who have invested, who have worked hard, have built up a small company. It's now worth something. They'd like to retire by selling it, and they're going to get punched in the face by this new tax.
So I'm trying to understand this figure because Christian Freeland said this capital gains tax, as you said, Tom, going from 50 to 66%, will affect only 40,000 people. And of those, the average salary or the average net worth of those people is $1.4 million.
She is pulling those numbers out of thin air, because wait till the dust starts to settle on this, and you will see just how out of contact, how out of connection to reality the Liberals are with the current budget proposal. And it will hurt tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, especially small business people, people who have invested and been prudent. If you're a civil servant and you got your pension set aside, that's fine. And nobody will take it away from you. But if you've worked hard as an artisan or a small business person, and your investment is, like I say, a fourplex or something like that, or your business itself, and you want to sell that to somebody else, now you're going to get smashed with this new tax.
I'm wondering, too, there was so much discussion over they're going to have to raise a lot of money. This, by the way, this capital gains hike, if you will, is projected to bring in $19.6 with a B billion over the course of the next, I think it's 3 years, and about $6 billion this year. That seems like an astronomically high figure. Yeah,
that only applies to a few people. I mean, that's where these numbers just don't shake down. But let me give you one number that I think will stick in the imagination of the people listening to us today. You know what the GST is, right? The goods and service tax. We should change the name to the DST, the debt service tax, because 100% of the annual intake from coast to coast to coast of the goods and service tax is now going to be going to pay the service on the Canadian debt. So that tax exists 100% to pay for the debt, the service of the debt. We're not even paying a penny of the principal off, but that's just to pay the interest on the debt.
Does this, at first glance, Tom, look to you like a budget that someone like a Pierre Poilievre could stand up, wave around, and go, this is what you get with this government? We already know, but, the amount of money being spent here, the numbers, again, are huge.
Trudeau just handed the next election to Poilievre on a silver platter. If Poilievre avoids becoming Poilievre, he was a bit too hot in the clip we just heard. He has trouble holding back. He has trouble, curbing his enthusiasm. If he learns how to become more of a statesman and less of a carnival barker, screaming at people, there's no reason for him not to defeat the Liberals in the next election. Look, this is, by all accounts, the worst budget we have seen in 35, 40 years in Canada. It's just such a dog's breakfast of mischief, of sleight of hand, of mirages, of hiding the truth. It's a total lack of transparency. Canada has a AAA rating, one of the, I think probably the only G7 country to have one right now. I would safely say that is in danger once the notation agencies, once the credit agencies start looking at the fine detail.
So let me ask you this, having, been in politics for as long as you have, this is going to settle down tomorrow. We'll get answers. There'll be some embellishment obviously going on. At what point does Justin Trudeau start to look at numbers and go, you know what? Polls say this hasn't done a thing. It's not improved our standing. We're still stuck where we are behind the Conservatives. And then, Tom, by extension, is this the moment where someone, if these numbers don't get any better, says, you know what? It's time for me to step down before we get to another election?
Well, from all accounts, and I've spoken with several people, who are close to him, who know him, who have access to him, who have all tried to tell him, your time's up. You've done an amazing job, but, this is your legacy mandate, and you've got to start thinking of moving on for the sake of the party and, frankly, for the sake of the country. And Trudeau's having none of it. But maybe it's just because he knows that if he gives the slightest hint, then that becomes the thing that everybody talks about.
Right.
So it doesn't mean that he's going to stick around. They will give this. You're not going to see an immediate result in the polls. You'll see it probably in the next couple of weeks. What's interesting is that the polls were already showing remember you and I talked about, there was an odd duck Nanos poll that showed that the Liberals had a bit of an uptick. Well, that's been rolled back in the most recent Nanos because people weren't even buying this multiple set of announcements that Trudeau's made over the past few weeks. So in the lead up to this budget, he just went all in. He's just sort of going, okay, we're going to spend. And people are saying things today. What I keep hearing come up is stuff that you and I've talked about, but, the public wasn't paying attention to, is, you know what? He's increased the civil service by 40,000 people. He's still giving massive contracts to companies like McKinsey to do the work of the civil servants because they're not doing it. And now he's telling us that, he's finally got the religion. He's starting to talk about reeling back the size of the civil service. Nobody, absolutely nobody believes that from Trudeau anymore.
Okay. Last question. I would be remiss if I did not bring up the Paul St. Pierre Plamondon controversy of today. It was one thing to hear him, call for separation, or the fact that it would be part of, what was going on in their mandate when they get in. And then today he just kind of doubled down, started talking about Canada and assimilating francophones and executions. And what did you make of all this?
You didn't know about the executions?
I was not up to date, no.
So here's the deal. I mean, when he gave that speech on Sunday, I was a bit surprised, but there was one specific aspect that I kind of saw coming. On Friday, he was, to me, trying to test the waters with some sort of softening of the whole referendum thing, because he's been strident about the fact, vote for me and you get a referendum on separation. And he knows that 65% of Quebecers don't want that. So he, on the air with this panel show that I do on Fridays with Emmanuelle Latraverse, she was giving him a great interview. And at some point she goes, okay, now we got to talk about the referendum. And he goes, I don't want a referendum. And I almost choked. I'm sort of going, what? What did he just say? And I said it to Mathieu Bock-Côté, who was on the panel. He said, no, he didn't really change anything. I said, it's completely different from what he always says. But then he goes on to say, well, what I really want is a new country, and I don't want to talk about the mechanics of the referendum. So he was trying to soft pedal or test a new line. When he got to the speech on Sunday, it was almost as if he was not going to suffer the insult of anyone suggesting he was backing down on the immediate need for a referendum once he gets elected, and he was back onto that track. It was the most dark, dour, depressing speech I've ever heard him give. And one of his best political advantages is he's a very upbeat, positive guy. And he is in real life, too. I mean, he's a very pleasant guy and easy to talk to. You've had him on the air any number of times.
Yeah.
And so I don't know who this guy was. I don't know what they spiked the punch with at the convention, but it must have been a lot of depressants because he just came out so dour. And then today, I mean, this is completely over the top. I mean, where does this stuff come from? Who is he trying to convince with this? Who is he talking to? And it was an absolute shock to me to hear this sort of stuff sputtering out of his mouth. I think that Legault and his team have been doing a pretty good job of reacting softly to it. They sent out, Simon-Jeanin Barrette to say, well, we care about this and that, and we're acting on it. But, it was completely bonkers. And he's really strident now. Yes, vote for me, and you get another divisive referendum, just like the last two you hated. And you know what? 65% of voters know exactly what to do with that promise.
Actually said today Canada wants to erase Quebec. Some of the stuff today was crazy.
Make us disappear, don't you know? Absolutely.
He's going to be here supposedly tomorrow, just after 3:00 on the show. So that should be interesting.
Have fun.
Yeah,
Make sure
thank
you have
you,
your
Tom.
quotes ready.
Tom MULCAIR back tomorrow morning with Andrew Carter. Thank you, Tom.
Take good care.